Welcome back to the Purple Political Breakdown, and we're going to start off by reacting to this. I was meaning to react to this whatever debate, Andrew Wilson versus one of the up and coming young leftist content creators. From what I've seen, I'll be honest, I liked how she approaches things more than Parker and Dean at the very least. I think those two have been getting kind of cringe recently, but hopefully everybody kind of figures it out. We'll see the debate, give my own commentary, say where I agree, say where I disagree. Let's dive right into it. I'm definitely not watching the full 3 hours, but I'll watch as much as I feel like watching, basically. All right, let's get right into the meat.
So my position on feminism is that it's terrible for society.
I don't hear it.
As we go through this, I'll kind of flesh that view out using what I call force doctrine so that you can understand why I have that same set. But force doctrine basically just states that while feminism definitionally is the movement towards egalitarianism and equity for the removal of patriarchal systems, that feminists will always have to appeal to patriarchy in order to try to remove patriarchy, which is ironically hilarious. But a few things I wanted to get to first is that I went through several hours of my opponent's content, and I've actually not ever seen her make a single argument for anything that she believes. I've seen her assert a lot of things, but not an argument for anything she actually believes. So I have some notes here.
So this sounds like one of those situations where he's trying to diminish the value of feminism. I don't really get the purpose of people like this trying to do that. I don't get what the intention is. Of course, we understand how certain movements have more unhinged sides, but if you're not a complete bot, if you consider yourself an intellectual, then you realize that those individuals that adhere to a more extremist mindset do not encapsulate the entire movement in itself, right? But it can be kind of co-opted by extreme rhetoric.
And I was hoping she could help me clear some of these things up. From the Surrounded September 8th, 2024 episode, she says abortion is murder. The prompt is abortion is murder and should be illegal. She asked for a viability time for 20 weeks and thinks abortion before 20 weeks is acceptable. She says the fetus is technically classified as a parasite. The fetus cannot exist outside of the womb and therefore is a parasite. The actual definitions don't support this. An organism living in, on, or with another organism in order to obtain nutrients, grow, multiply. That would be an actual definition of a parasite or someone or something that resembles a biological parasite living off of, being dependent on, or exploring another. Fetuses can't fit that definitionally. Fetus is the same species. Biological parasites are classified as other, not the same species. Also, mutual biology. Mothers and fetus co-adapt, and mothers are actually healthier while they're pregnant, so it can't really be a parasite. Parasites are rarely temporary, and fetuses are. So, and none of that fits the criteria for a parasite. On our video, Middle Ground, Progressives versus Moderates, and this is from January 19th, she says the prompt is, does the far left make Democrats lose elections? She said Kamala was not progressive enough, not far left enough.
I'm not really interested in he says, she said. I'm going to go look at your Twitter posts and social media posts. Let's get right into it. Start off with force doctrine.
Just kind of want to understand more. I know you've talked a lot about the equal force objection in the past. You've said men have essentially a monopoly on force.
Correct.
If I'm correct. Okay, perfect.
And do you want me to walk you through the argument?
No, I'm going to elaborate. Thank you. And that rights exist through physical force, and that our legal system is based on physical force.
All right, so I'm on the same page on what force doctrine actually means. Let's get a definition. Define force doctrine. Of course, this is not an end-all be-all, but at the very least want to know where it kind of starts. Force doctrine. Body of force doctrine. This has something to do with the military, so I doubt this is what they're referring to. Force doctrine in relation to maybe this is what they mean. Well, let me read it. Maybe I'll be able to kind of figure out how they're going to apply it. So this is what I found when I type it in. Force doctrine refers to the fundamental principle that guide military forces in their actions to achieve national objectives. It is a body of authoritative ideas that outshine how military force should be structured, deployed, and utilized in campaigns and operations. Essentially, it serves as a framework for solving military problems, ensuring effective coordination among different types of forces. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's not what they are referring to, but it could be a derivative of these overarching ideas. So we'll see.
So I guess I kind of just want to hear you elaborate on that now, if you're welcome.
Do you want my argument for the force doctrine?
Yep.
Okay, so what force doctrine is saying is very simple. That feminism, if you at least agree with my definition, and it seems broadly feminists do,
Yeah.
that it's a movement towards egalitarianism and equity and the removal of patriarchy. If you can't have an oppressed class without an oppressor class, at least not from the Marxist feminist view. In the case, if women are being oppressed, they're not being oppressed by wolves, they're being oppressed by men, right? So if that's the case, then my argument to them is that whatever you believe this oppression is, you will actually have to appeal to men in order to either relinquish whatever this oppression is, or concede to whatever it is that they want, because collectively, women actually cannot overthrow any patriarchal systems. They rely on the force of men. And so if men, anytime they want to, decide to remove women's rights, there's actually not anything women can do about it, but the opposition is not true. The opposite is not true. Women cannot collectivize and take away men's rights.
Okay, so are you...
But just because they have to appeal to the help of men, which is fine, I don't see anything wrong with that. Especially when it comes to the dawn of the origination of feminism, those men were the ones in power, right? So I don't get exactly the point that is being proven here. Are you saying it can't be feminism because they asked for men's help? At that point, that seems stupid. I'm gonna keep it a stat. I'm gonna keep it a bean. That seems a very dumb point to make.
Saying that women do not deserve the right to fight for their own free will or have free will?
Yeah, that's an ought claim. I'm not making an ought claim. I'm trying to get us to the descriptor first. So instead of making a prescriptive statement, I'm starting with a descriptive statement. What is true? And then we can worry about what should be true after we can determine what is true.
Okay, but I'm trying to see, like, structurally, how does that work in the real world? Are you saying that women should not fight for their rights because they...
Listen, let's back up so I can distinguish the things.
Okay.
Is, ought, right? So I'm not trying to bridge the is-ought gap. I'm trying to start with a descriptive claim. So if the descriptive claim is true, then we can move to the prescriptive side of it. But right now, you would either need to agree with me that descriptively I'm right or that descriptively I'm wrong.
I can't agree with you to say that descriptively you're right until you apply what you're saying in theory to the practice of modern day society.
Yeah, I'm with her. This seems like a debate tactic where you're trying to find a way to utilize a point of agreement to coincide the agreement to an overarching point that is not related. And yes, this is an effective debate tactic, but this is why I criticize debate, because they're playing games. I'm not interested in the games when we're having important conversation. The games are fun when the conversation doesn't matter. Like using a debate tactic when it's like in relation to like anime or sports or whatever. Sure. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't matter. It's just having fun, trying to prove who's right and all that good stuff. When it comes to a serious issue that has ramifications on a societal level, these debate games are lazy and they don't provide any substance, and they don't prove that you're smart. They just prove that you know how to debate. Cool. I don't care. So I don't get the point of this line of reasoning at all. I'm going to be honest.
How does your equal force objection, how does this principle work in society? What are you saying?
So I'm saying that because that
coexist?
I think that because that is the case, that men deserve to have various privileges that they're not given in society, which they should be given in society.
So what are the privileges that you think that men should have that women should not have?
Well, primarily, I think that if you're going to look at an equalization,
understanding how to overthrow or change a society, but adhering to the powers that be doesn't really provide any kind of foundation to proceed with the conversation at all. So I'm curious to see where he goes from this. I think it's going to be some weird kind of logic that he's going to try to apply. We'll see. I think he's going to try to explain
would do
further what he's
prescriptively
trying
would
to
be
do.
roll voting back. And that's for both sexes. I think
And should have that women should not have.
well, primarily, I think that if you're going to look at an equalization, what I would do prescriptively would be to roll voting back. And that's for both sexes. I think that rolling voting back for both sexes is a good idea, and have some sort of perhaps like one house voting system or one marriage voting system, or people who have done some sort of collective service to the state for a voting system. I think that those things would all be very good systems for everybody.
Why?
Now, I would apply that, hang on, I would apply that broadly to men, and I would apply that to women. I think that right now men get the shaft.
So I'm gonna allow her respond, and if she doesn't cover something that I think should be addressed,
That is,
I'm gonna give my
men
own
are-
commentary for that.
Men are required to do a lot of jobs that women are not, which keeps society going, and women are not doing those things. And because
Men are required. Men are required. Such as what jobs are men required to do that women aren't able to do?
of that, I don't understand why it is that women can nullify their votes and disenfranchise them, and most importantly, vote to send them to wars they don't have to go fight in.
So you would like to disenfranchise both men and women's votes?
Mostly, most of
So in reference to the draft that won't happen anytime soon, sure. A rare circumstance that has no weight in terms of the overarching conversation. Okay. He hasn't really made a point. He said, he just wants to reform people who have the right to vote, which is not American, but I understand the underlying premise, I think. So sure. But then you also said it would apply to men and women. Now there could be a kind of underlying theme behind the idea of applying something when he considers men to be, and I don't know if he considers this, but if it is the case, it considers men to be the ones in charge of households. So if it is a vote per household, that means the man would have the right of the vote, right? So at that point, there could be the idea that he is trying to frame it like it's equal towards men and women, but in reality, it's going to be in favor of men because he also considers them head of the household. So it's a weird little game he's playing, and I hate when people do this stuff. But we'll see if this is the case.
What
a
would
better
this achieve?
Well, it would be that it would achieve the same thing our founders basically wanted to achieve, which is that they thought that you have to have a stake in the country in order to vote.
But if you live in the country and if you exist in the country and if you're being legislated by the laws that the country is making, don't you have a stake in that?
No, not always.
You don't?
In fact, many times you don't. Many times, many people actually get more back from the state than they put into the state. So that's at the expense of other people.
Who is that?
So there's lots of people who get a mass amount back from the government that they never pay to the government. This can happen through things like Social Security, disability, things like welfare, things like even earned income child credit that you may receive, even though you don't actually pay anything into the system or very little into the system.
But it's a crime to lie on your taxes and commit. Isn't that tax fraud to claim a dependent?
No. There's just
that is tax fraud.
no.
to
It's not
claim a
tax. Listen, it's
dependent
not
that you're
tax fraud. I'm saying
taking care
there's
of.
people who get more out of the system than they put into the system.
He's trying to make the argument that these people who get these disabilities, get welfare checks, get all this stuff, they don't have any right to vote because the country's taking care of them. I mean, like I said, I already kind of insinuated that that's what he was referring to anyway. It's just, at that point, you have to question yourself and see where the line ends. Because once you start doing that, you're gonna have to have a continuous conversation on first the extent of weight of you inputting whatever you're inputting into the country, because it's impossible to say that anybody in the country is not putting something into the country. The moment you buy something, you're contributing to the economy. So everybody's putting something in. Those people who are putting 0% in don't exist. So the first thing that would have to happen is that we would have to figure out the amount of stuff that a person's putting in. Does that equate enough to the value that you want from that person inherently? Now, it could be something as simple for someone like Andrew Wilson If the government or the country is giving you 51% and you're giving 49%, you don't have a right to vote. And that can get very shaky, very manipulative, very authoritarian, and it could be definitely an oppression of the people. And it can work very negatively in both sides. And you're applying a lot of power into the government at that point, right? Because now, not only are they giving more towards the individual, which, I mean, my underlying principle is that the government is for the people, not the people for the government. So your framework seems flipped, in my opinion. But not only is that the case in your world, but also they have the right to choose who participates in the government based and who chooses the leaders. That's a fascist regime in the making, Andrew Wilson. So that's a stupid idea. But I'll let it continue.
Okay, but they're still at stake because they still live here now. Are their lives not at stake if we're legislating them?
But that wouldn't follow that because they live here, they deserve the right to vote, though.
Yes, no taxation without representation. That's the point of representative democracy, is that everyone is represented.
Then how come the founding fathers didn't give everybody the right to vote from the beginning?
I mean, the founding fathers also endorsed and owned slaves. Do you agree with chattel slavery?
Just let her finish. Go ahead.
I mean, the founding fathers also endorsed and owned slaves.
Okay, but
do you believe in chattel slavery?
Yeah. So you do realize that they could do bad thing, right? I can agree that's bad thing, but that has nothing relationally to do with how they set up the system of government.
I mean, I thought this was going to be a debate on feminism. Honestly, I think that's kind of wild because it sounds like you're disenfranchising men. So who do you think would be? Are you trying to go back?
I'm not.
You're taking away.
I'm not disenfranchising men. Calm down. I'll explain.
But if you're taking away the votes of a man because he is not, I guess, landowning, is that what?
She's not being aggressive. You sound a little uncomfortable, Andrew Wilson. I mean, at that point, if you're so hell bent at adhering to certain principles that you believe exists, where now you made the claim that, oh, why didn't they give everybody the right? But then you also say, oh, I understand that wasn't good. That doesn't make sense. 1 + 1 is not equal to 2. If you recognize that there are things they've done that is bad, and one of the examples you use is an example of them doing bad, how are you going to use that as a means to enforce your argument? That's ridiculous. What are you doing there?
What's the criteria for having a vote?
I think ultimately more men would be voting because they would have more stake.
So can I ask, can every man go to prison?
Yeah.
Okay, if they commit a crime, they can go to prison?
Yeah.
Everyone can do that?
Yes.
Okay, and everyone is in this country has to abide by the laws of this country, otherwise they will go to prison, yes?
Yeah.
Okay, so why wouldn't they be allowed to vote on the representatives that define those laws? That is a stake. If you can go to prison for committing a crime that is created by the government, then you do have a stake legislatively in the laws that the government creates.
That still wouldn't follow that you would need to vote.
Yes, you would need to vote.
Why?
You want to vote for the representatives that create laws that are just and fair to you.
Yeah, why? Like you could have
because you could go to prison.
Okay,
that's a huge stake.
I'll show you, right? Can kings put you in prison?
Yeah.
Can kings also pass just laws?
Sometimes, maybe.
Okay, so
maybe
if kings pass just laws, why do you need to vote?
Well, why did we fight an entire
answer the
revolution?
question before you ask another one. I just answered all of yours. If a king passes just laws, why would you need to vote?
Because a king can also pass unjust laws.
So can legislatures.
Sure, but if you
I'm gonna let it keep on going. I can't rebuttal everything.
Yeah, but you can also rebel against kings. So like that's what I'm saying. Your position doesn't follow. It doesn't actually follow for you to say that because you can be imprisoned inside of a nation that somehow gives you the right to vote.
Well, because you have a stake. You're saying that.
Hang on, I'm falsifying your claim. I'm falsifying your claim. If you,
I'll let her go.
Claim kings can make just laws. Right?
Yes.
Then I don't understand. Why would people need to vote when kings are making just laws?
Well, then why would we leave the monarchy of England? If kings can make just laws, why would we leave?
Well, in that case, you had a nation apart that had a rebellion against.
See, this is ridiculous. The idea of if kings can make unjust law, I don't even know what the point of this was, to be honest. The issue is consolidated power. The issue is that you can't enforce a level of checks, so you can't enforce a level of accountability to an individual that has that much power and level of kind of individuality to do as he please that affects such a large scope of the population, right? At the end of the day, the idea behind a legislator, because people vote, because people choose their politician because there's check and balances, as there's always that level of accountability that regardless if a law is unjust, there is that ability to either impeach them, of course, to either have checks and balances, veto or tear down that law. You have multiple routes between the House and the Senate to pass it and deliberate it. You have all these representatives that are voted into that place to ensure that happens as well. And if it all that happens after all the checks and balances and all that stuff, and all the people who got chosen as representatives by the voters itself, and it still goes through and it's still an unjust law, then the people have the ability to react to it, see how it gets implemented into society. And then once you see that it's implemented inappropriately, you don't vote for that person again. You make your voice heard. That's why this stuff exists, right? So that's a false dichotomy to compare a king to the legislature. That's lazy. Again, it's just lazy thinking, Andrew Wilson. That's lazy.
The king.
Yes,
That's what was going on. But kings have been rebelled against historically under certain circumstances many times.
So you'd like to go back to feudalism? Like
No,
you
it's not
don't believe in
feudalism.
democracy? Well, yeah, that is
No,
the
it would be
feudalism.
it would
Feudalism is under a monarchy.
it would be called limited democracy, which is exactly what we had here. Do you think we had feudalism because most people couldn't vote here?
We had limited democracy, and then there were like many uprisings against that limited democracy because everyone
No,
deserves
there
the
wasn't
right.
uprisings really against that. The only uprising that I'm aware of in American history against America was the Civil War.
The Civil War, the Civil Rights
But that
Movement.
What are you trying to prove here? Wait, what?
the
about
first
voting.
feminist movement,
That
the
wasn't
second
about
feminist
voting.
movement, the Civil Rights Movement.
No,
the
no,
voting
no,
rights
no, no,
women-
no.
movement.
It's just
All
the
of
Civil
those were
War
about-
wasn't about voting.
Well, I mean, it was about the owning of chattel slaves.
So not about voting then?
which is also about
You're not making a point. See, this is debate brain. Because the overarching point is having rights and being treated as human. The specific cause, the forefrontal cause, is not I'm doing what I'm doing purely because of voting, but a derivative of everything that is going on in establishing rights and humanity is also being a part of the government and getting voting rights as well. I just don't understand what we're doing here. We're being disingenuous right now. I don't get the point he's trying to prove. I don't get the idea of trying to distinguish that certain things are not forefront movements for specifically voting, because everything is in relation to rights, which includes voting, especially civil rights, of course. And then obviously we have the civil rights movement, we have the Civil War, all of these that ensure like Black people obviously have rights. And then obviously we had the women's suffrage movement. And there's a lot of movements to ensure that everybody has the right to vote, as well as long as they're like an adult citizen, 18, all that stuff, right? So yeah, I don't get what we're doing here. I don't get what we're doing here. It sounds like he's trying to argue that he wants a specific type of government that picks people who can vote, and he liked it how it was back then, but also recognizes it was bad back then. He's trying to have his cake and eat it too. I think he wants to just be an authoritarian to pick who gets to have certain rights in America. That's what it legit sounds like to me.
human and civil rights.
But not about voting though.
But voting is a civil right.
I don't know. I'm not sure that I believe in
It's
this
about freedom and it's about
conceptual-
representation.
Yeah, yeah. So
the
let's
point is
ba- so
representation.
let's back up.
That's what voting is.
Yeah.
Voting is representation and democracy.
I understand, but you haven't actually made the positive case for why people need to be able to vote.
People need to be able to vote because they have a stake in the legislation in this country. If you can be imprisoned
Mm-hmm.
at this country, if you can be robbed of your bodily autonomy
Mm-hmm.
by the legislators of this country, then you should be able to have a stake in what the laws that those legislators are making.
Well,
no?
let's see if this makes sense. Do you agree with me that individual voters don't actually have very much power at all?
Individual voters, no, but that's the point of a collective voting
Yeah,
body.
I'm with you. So
Yeah.
individuals already don't really have very much power just because they can vote, right?
Sure.
What is the point you're trying to make here? It's not about individual power, like she said. Wait, I just don't. Okay, let me maybe
So isn't
maybe
it
he
the
makes
case
a good
actually that what
point.
you're advocating for is political tribalism? Because you don't have individual power as a voter, you actually have to tribalize with other voters in order to have any sort of collective power, right?
That's a weird way to frame things. You have to be tribal, right? What? Is he trying to catch her into agreeing to a way of thinking that is problematic? because tribal mindset. Obviously, I don't need to go down the route behind the incorrectness of tribal thinking, but the point is participation. The point is value. Having any value is better than having no value. So I just don't get what he's trying to do with this line of questioning. It seems weird. You're trying to undermine the value of individual participation into the electoral system, into this democracy. For what? What are you trying to equate that to no power? Because regardless, even if the value is 1%, that 1% to the 0% that you're alluding to they're not close in terms of importance and in terms of what they provide. So, oh man, I just
Well, you're
this
taking
is
away
so
power
weird.
from all the voters,
Well,
so it
can
wouldn't
you
even be
answer my
individual.
question, please? Tribalism, the idea that you, as the individual, do not have power, right?
Yes.
You do have to collectivize with other people, right?
Okay, but how is
Hang on,
taking
can
away
you
a
answer?
vote?
Yeah,
Yes, you have to collectivize and compromise. That's how society works, right? You know, you come together to build a community. That's how it works, right? Okay, apparently
Yes or
there's
no?
a
No.
Yeah. Okay. No.
But
Okay.
here's my question: how is taking away more people's votes disincentivizing political tribalism?
Yes,
because now I have to band with someone. Because now I have to band with someone who has a vote. I don't even get a stake. So you're saying because people don't have enough power to vote, I'm going to take what little power they do have.
You're not
away.
answering my question though.
It just doesn't make
Facts.
sense.
Yeah, no, but you got to answer my question.
It
It
just
doesn't make
to believe
sense.
in
It sounds like you need to
democracy.
answer my question though.
No, when you ask a fucking stupid question, it's hard to answer a question that's fucking stupid. So I know you're getting heated, Andrew, but ask a fucking better question. Your question's dog shit. It's retarded.
Sounds like your question is
Yeah,
meant to trap me because
can you
your
just
argument
can you
is
just
riddled with
answer
Retarded
my
is a bad
question,
word.
please?
I'm
What's
not one of those guys.
You're
It's
saying that
stupid,
people
though.
do not have a stake in this country, therefore they do not have a right to vote.
It's not what I said.
Yes,
What you're
it
doing
is.
is a straw man fallacy.
Can we go back to
Yeah,
what
you
he
can
said?
go. You can go back.
Can
What
we
I
go
said
back
to you
that?
specifically is what you're saying doesn't logically follow. And when I'm talking about political tribalism, do you agree with me that you do, if you need to have collectives to have actual political power, are you not promoting?
No, you have political power already. You just don't think it's important enough, but the power is already embedded. Now, in terms of scope, that's different, but the power is already existing. That's why I said he's trying to equate little power to no power. No, you do have power. It's just little individually. They're just not the same. All right.
Political tribalism.
If you need to have but that's how voting works. It's about a majority.
So then you are promoting collective political tribalism, right?
So voting and then
I wouldn't agree to his terms because he's being a fucking weirdo. Don't agree to his terms, but explain what he's saying, explain it back to him, and agree to your interpretation of what he's saying. Because he's trying to trap you. He's playing these stupid games.
the will of the majority is essentially political tribalism, is what you're saying?
Well, it's not really the will of the majority.
It is the will
Here's
of
what
the
happens.
majority.
No, not really.
Do you understand how voting works?
Do you?
Yeah.
Okay, well then tell me how it's the will of the majority when a California legislator gets elected.
Well, everyone who would like to.
The majority of the people in California voted for him. What? Is that a hard concept? That the majority of the people in California voted for their representative? Okay.
To vote can vote, and then whoever
What
gets
about
the most
what about the
votes
people in Georgia?
wins. Well, why would a person in Georgia get to vote on a
So it's not
legislator for
really the
California state
collective; it's the
legislature?
tribe, right?
But then
That's fucking stupid. No, it's the majority of the people in the area that's voting on their state representative. The way you're framing things is so stupid. Oh my goodness. Yo, I did not realize this is the type of person Andrew Wilson is. Jesus Christ. The way he frames things is ridiculous.
Georgians get to vote for their
Right,
state
so it's a
legislator.
tribe then?
And then all of those legislators come together.
So it's a
to create
tribe.
laws.
So it's a tribe.
No,
It's not a tribe, but it's states.
Yeah,
no,
states.
no, it's not a tribe. No. I see what he's trying to do. Don't agree to it because he's trying to frame things in a very deceitful way. Do not agree to it. Do not agree to it. No, do not agree to it. The majority The initial idea was also the idea of majority. So that logic still applies. You're just trying to play this weird game.
And states are voting for their own interests, right?
But states will vote for the governors.
Yeah.
Why would I get to vote
What-
for the
what-
governor?
wait,
Hold on,
Yeah,
pause.
hold on, hold on. Let her
Listen to
finish.
me. Why would I get to vote for the governor of, let's say, Tennessee if I
Right.
don't live in Tennessee?
Makes sense.
Okay.
So it's almost
So
like
then
it's almost
why
like these
would-
individual states, right? They vote along tribal lines for that state's particular interest, right?
Yes, and
They're
then
not-
each
That wasn't even your initial point, because her initial point is the majority. So yes, the majority of the people in the area they live in still. Oh, this is gonna piss me off. This is gonna be one of those that's gonna just absolutely piss me off. Andrew Wilson is a bot. Oh Jesus, what
state
what are
has
we
a
talking
representative
Right,
in
which
the
they said?
collective government.
Sure, in the federal government, right? You're
Uh-huh.
talking about in our Senate and in our Congress, right?
Yes.
Great. So let's start with this. If it is the case that you have California and Nevada, these are two states which are next to each other, you agree,
Sure.
right?
Yes.
Can these states
Mhm.
vote against each other's interests when it comes
course
to
they can.
resources?
In the federal government, yes. they
No,
can.
even at the state level they can, right?
Why would they be able to at the state level? I can't vote for the Nevada governor. I can't vote for
Because perhaps there's something
Nevada.
that perhaps Nevada has some type of, I don't know, assessed a tax or something like this that they're able to collect, which disproportionately affects Californians in some way. They can do that.
Yeah, yeah, based off the people that was voted in. What's the point here? What are we talking about?
Right?
What law is that?
Whatever it would be, they
So
can do
does
it.
it exist or does it not exist?
Can they do that? Can they do that? Is my question.
Can Nevada legislate against California?
No, they're not legislating against. Listen to my question. Actually, I want you to repeat
Your
my question.
question's
so you can
stupid.
actually hear it.
I'm sorry, I'm not a dog. I
Can
don't
you repeat
things.
it? Well, it's
No,
called steel manning a
just
position.
say the question. then.
Okay. Can states vote against other states' interests simply by having a neighboring state, right?
Mhm.
Let's just say, for instance, that you were to have like, oh, I don't know, trucks which went between Nevada and California, right?
Yes.
And California took advantage of this by raising taxes on gasoline, but only on the border areas where these goods came in. This disproportionately
Okay.
hurts Nevada truckers for some reason, right? They can do that, right?
Yeah, something that happened in the state of California. Yes, in the state of California. Yeah, in the state of California, you get that point, right? They vote for something that happens in the state of California. They don't vote for something that happens in the state of Nevada. The state of Nevada could do whatever they want. I don't. Again, what's the point?
They can do that.
Okay, great. So in California, if that was beneficial to Californians, they would basically be voting for their tribe against Nevada, right?
But is that happening?
It
Or are
does
you just
happen.
trying to use a hypothetical?
No, there's tons and tons of instances where different states do various things, even asking for federal money in overages compared to other states for different problems. Same thing with disaster support. They definitely
He's so hell-bent on this tribal idea and trying to relate it to an overarching point to play this stupid debate game. This is such a disingenuous conversation that has no point. There's no point being made here.
are all trying to support their tribe, right?
Okay, so because states can potentially, hypothetically, vote against another state's interest, men and women should not have the right to
No,
vote.
that's not the conclusion.
But that was your argument.
No,
the
that's-
privilege is
no, we're-
you
again, do you
stated
know what a
no voting,
descriptor
both
is?
sexes,
What's a
one marriage voting system.
Why don't you understand the difference between a descriptor and prescriptor? What did I prescribe?
What you prescribed is one voting system. Is a voting
Yes.
system in which
What
both
I'm
men
doing-
and women are
Yeah,
disenfranchised.
what I'm doing right now is I'm giving you descriptors so we can determine if it's tribalism or not, because you said it's not tribalism to have collectivism and voting blocks, which is insane.
But what you haven't been able to answer
Mhm.
is why disenfranchising more voters is somehow
let me-
solving
Hold on,
political
hold on, just
tribalism.
let her.
No, the way he's rerouting everything is and trying to evade a initial point. Because how this started off was the idea of individual value of voting. Now, just because you need more people, a majority, which he denied, and then try to make this tribalistic idea. So he was wrong there. His point about their individual value had no weight. So there's no point there. And he's just really hell-bent and stuck on tribalism. He's hell-bent and stuck on the idea that he really wants to prove that people who vote within their state is voting with a tribal mindset. Let's play this stupid game that Andrew Wilson's playing. Define tribalism. Let's just get a definition that we're both out of the way because I'm so tired of this idiotic game. Tribalism is a noun that Tribalism is a noun that refers to the state of existing as a tribe or a very strong feeling of loyalty to your tribe. It implies the possession of a strong cultural or ethnic identity that separates one member of a group from the member of another group. Tribalism also can refer to a very strong feeling of loyalty to a political or social group, so you support them and whatever they do. Right. So you're stuck on this, and my guess is he wants to embed an idea that these people are focused on their own self-interest and are loyal to their own individual state. In reality, no. There's a lot of people who live in a state that are not tribalistic to their own state. They just vote in the state that affect them. That's all that happened. They vote in the area they live in because it affects them. It's not a tribal mindset where, oh, I have to do whatever I have to do for my tribe. It's not. So now that we're done with semantics, and hopefully she kind of points this out, can we get to the point of the conversation? Because whatever this is stupid. This is a stupid line of question and has no value. I need something substantive because whatever Andrew Wilson's talking about is dumb. I don't want to say it.
All right.
Sentence, please.
Well, let me explain it
Sure.
the best way that I possibly can.
I hope
Your
you try.
worldview promotes political tribalism. So what happens is this: NGOs can go to
Her worldview has not indicated political tribalism at all. What, you're talking about feminism is political tribalism?
our government and they can bribe them for voting blocks. And that's exactly what they do. Non-government organizations do this and lobbyists do this. And what they do is they raid the treasury from people like you and me so that they can bribe certain portions of the electorate in order to incentivize them to collectivize.
Okay.
That's why black people often vote as a monolith, for instance. They vote monolithically up to 80, 90% together, especially in national, especially in national elections, because they're made certain promises out of the treasury from the electorate, usually at the expense of other forms of voters. This is 100% tribalism.
So how are NGOs bribing politicians, influencing who Black people as individuals choose to vote for?
How do NGOs do that?
I just don't understand how you're saying. I mean, I agree that NGOs should not be bribing and lobbyists shouldn't be bribing, but instead of
I mean, that's what
saying,
they do, though, right?
Okay, but we're trying to get back to your claim that
I'm in
less
the middle of
people
my
should
claim.
vote. Okay, well,
You're
I'm
not. You're bullshitting. Jesus Christ. You're not making a claim. I'm like, at this point, I'm like, when are we gonna get to the what is the debate about? It sounds like you're just playing stupid games. That's what it sounds like to me. Because that point you made, I'm not too interested in like tearing it apart or going detail by detail on the nuances and the context. If you believe that lobbying is bribery, if you believe that certain kind of money incentives from politicians is corrupt, I mean, yeah, I can add nuance, I can add context. It really doesn't matter to me because there's some things that relate to it that I don't agree with either. So ultimately, fine. What does that have to do with what we're talking about? What does this have to do with certain people getting the right to vote? I just don't know what we're talking about right now.
conversation.
Yeah.
Sure. So we're trying to get back to your claim that less people from both sexes should be able to vote.
Yeah, no, that's not where we just were.
But that's your initial
Yeah,
claim,
but now
yes?
you're just pivoting. Where we just were was
Well, you're not letting me
you
finish my
said-
sentence.
no,
If you'd let me
because
finish
you-
my sentence.
Oh my God, Andrew Wilson is so annoying. What are we talking about? What is the conversation right now? This is pissing me off. I'm about to stop watching this video. I don't get what is the debate? He's just rambling. What is the debate here?
You're
we could go back.
pivoting. We're talking right now about whether tribalism is descriptively true in your voting system.
I understand that, but we're trying to get back to your initial claim because you have a
Yeah.
very important claim to defend. You're trying to
I
take
am
votes away
defending
from
it.
the American people
Yeah.
poorly, but let's get
Oh,
into it.
okay.
So NGOs bribe, lobbyists bribe,
Yeah.
and that is impacting who and what politicians are promoting. I would agree with that statement. Would you agree with that statement?
Well, not just what they're promoting, but also they are setting the precedent for laws themselves.
Okay. Yeah.
So
sure.
they actually, I would even argue back that NGOs and private think groups write the laws in which politicians most often execute, and so do bankers as well.
I agree with that. So why would taking away
I just think it's a very black pilled mindset, but like I'm not too interested in combating it.
Votes from the average American and singular citizen prevent NGOs and lobbyists from having an ability to impact and predict and create laws.
Yeah. So if you move to stakeholder democracy, this idea that you had to have some sort of public service or something like this, it actually collectivizes down the voting pool, which adds responsibility to the voters who can then be held accountable, which right now voters can't be. That's why it's so important. So you're
Voters
saying,
can be held accountable.
So you're saying how?
Well, legislators will.
All right, maybe I think he finally made a point.
It actually collectivizes down this
Average American and singular citizen prevent NGOs and lobbyists from having an ability to impact and predict and create laws.
Yeah. So if you move to stakeholder democracy, this idea that you had to have some sort of public service or something like this, it actually collectivizes down the voting pool, which adds responsibility to the voters who can then be.
Collectivizes down the voter pool. Trying to understand. I'm gonna take this off 1.25, so it kind of registers better.
It actually collectivizes down the voting pool, which adds responsibility to the voters who can then be held accountable, which right
now. So he wants. So what was his alternative?
To have some sort of public service or something like this, it actually collectivizes down the voting.
Why is he
and
speaking
lobbyists
so much
having an
slower?
ability to impact and predict and create laws.
Yeah. So if you move to stakeholder democracy, this idea.
Stakeholder democracy. What does that mean? Because he hasn't really explained anything. Stakeholder democracy. All right. I see. Stakeholder democracy. That's what he said. Refers to a government system where the supreme power of government is vested in the people. So this is what he wants. A stakeholder democracy refers to a government system where the supreme power of government is vested in the people. It is biased on democratic notions of representation and the essential virtue of stakeholder governance processes. The functions of the state in enabling democracy are important. So he wants extreme authority towards the people. I'm just trying to figure out what exactly differentiates itself from. Okay, so I think I understand the ideas now. So he wants to empower voters to give them more value in individual voting. Well, by doing so, those individuals that have more power in terms of what they're voting for should also have more of an extreme circumstance of determining who should and should not be allowed to vote because of the increased amount of influence they have towards the government. The problem with that is we're basically creating an oligarchy. I mean, that's eventually what it would turn into, right? So, okay, continue.
That you had to have some sort of public service or something like this, it actually collectivizes down the voting pool, which adds responsibility to the voters who can then be held accountable, which right now voters can't be.
Voters are held accountable when a politician comes in that is against the issues that they care about. So they 100% can. I don't. What other punishment could you say? You vote in a bad politician because you picked a bad politician, or you didn't vote and a bad politician got chosen because you didn't vote. I mean, that's punishment right there. What other punishment do you need in regards to the system?
That's why it's so important. So
Voters can be held accountable.
So you're saying how?
Well, legislators will create laws that hold those voters accountable. We're the ones who have to follow them. Do you not have
how
to
are
follow
they?
the
Well,
laws?
that's not you being held accountable.
It is being held accountable.
No. So right now, under tribalism, you can get laws passed which affect me but benefit you. I can't go.
So you're just bitching that certain laws get passed that you don't agree with. That's what it sounds like. You're just bitching. Yeah, it sounds like a little pussy. Okay. And please explain why this is an issue.
Like hold you somehow accountable for that.
But that's how a
I need to be able to hold you accountable for voting for someone who had a law that I didn't like. I need to be able to hold you accountable. How dare you? Stop sounding like a little bitch, Andrew. What the fuck? What are you talking about?
majority voting works. That's how
I
democracy
know,
works.
which is why I want limited democracy where we can actually hold people
because
accountable.
you just want to be in charge.
How would I?
Thank you. He basically just wants people to vote exactly how he wants. He wants to pick the people who could vote. He wants those people who vote for things that he hates to be held accountable. He just wants to be the authoritarian. It's not rocket science on what Andrew Wilson wants. He wants people to vote his way or the highway. Because he's a little privileged little brat. That's why. What are we arguing right now?
I be in charge if it's stakeholder democracy?
Well, you said one marriage voting system.
That could be one way of doing it. Yes.
Okay, what is the other?
It's no, because we don't got to play this. Do I need to address something so obvious? If we create a system based off your individual needs, you would adhere the system based off certain preferences that you believe have the best case scenario to choose laws that you care about. And one such way is putting men in the forefront. No, you make it seem like it's a man and woman thing. So first you make it a one family thing. Then you also have the idea that men have all the power in this kind of traditional familial mindset. So now it's the man in power in a family now votes. And then I'm sure you would want to narrow it down even more. So it's very obvious the intentionality behind this, but I don't get where the debate is at this point. He's just saying bullshit. Moral voting, who's given the right. All right. I'll watch a little bit more of this because this, and then we'll see. But overall, this debate is stupid, and Andrew Wilson has some pretty stupid points. I do want to see that one. Where's the clip about opening the jar? That was hilarious. I think I saw that. I kind of want to see it. Where's that clip? I need to see that clip. I need to clown on Andrew Wilson not being able to. Here's the pickle jar moment. Let's watch this because everything else they're talking about is and they're finally talking about feminism because I thought that was the debate. Okay, so we'll start from here.
The Yits of the tribe, the younglings,
Yeah.
who are
Obviously, if you want to watch the full one, feel free to go to whatever podcast and watch the full thing.
male, go over and blow all of the adults, essentially, the Yits. They go over and like service them, let's say.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what they do.
Yeah.
However, when psychologists go and look at this, the kids there actually demand to do this because it's a part of their culture. Now, me as a Christian, I would say that's inherently bad.
Right.
Why would you?
I don't get. Oh, they're trying to argue moral relativism. I don't get the foundation on where this argument started from, so I might have to rewind a little bit. Let's go right after the super chats.
Or a
Women
satanic
whores.
prostitute whore. You
What
just did it.
if she was a prostitute and a Satanist? Yes.
Well, she wasn't a Satanist. She was a sex worker. But
No, she was a Satanist.
am I answering the question or are you answering the question?
Yeah, but I'm not
I
gonna let
think
you
the question was
lie.
directed to
Like I'm
me.
not gonna let you lie. She was
I think the question
If a
was
person is a Satanist and a prostitute, are they a satanic whore?
But she didn't call herself.
Can you
a
answer my
Satanist.
question?
She didn't identify.
But she
as a Satanist,
did.
though.
She did though. She's
Okay.
if you're a Satanist and a prostitute, then you're a satanic whore. You see how that works?
Yeah, I see how that works.
Do you?
But
Do you?
Here's what I'm trying to say.
You're so emotional. Calm
Andrew-
down.
oh
Answer
my
the
goodness.
question.
Look at him. He's
Answer
trying
the
to do it to
question.
me.
Answer
Are
Yo,
you
the
trying
Andrew acts like a
question?
bitch, bro.
I don't know. It looks
You
like
can
it's.
make it
It
work.
looks.
Nobody's getting emotional but you. You sound triggered. And this lady is way younger than you. What are we doing here? Why are we acting like children? It's like, do people not know how to engage in conversations? Right? I'm new to the scene, and I feel like I see so many childish, stupid situations like this.
It's like it's working.
It's really not.
It looks like it is.
It's really not.
Yeah. So is a woman who is a Satanist and a prostitute a satanic whore?
Yes. Now, can I
Okay.
answer
Thank
the
you.
question directly?
Thank you.
Okay.
So then I was right.
And it's funny because you just said you don't call women whores, and then you just called her a whore. But
No, I make descriptive statements on
Andrew,
what is
you
a
don't let me answer the
whore.
question. I don't think it was
I
right
make
to
a
you.
descriptive
Somebody
statement on what is
paid
a horror.
a ridiculous amount of money to ask me a question, and I would like to answer
I
it.
can't wait to hear it.
Okay. To be honest with you, Andrew, I think you debate in bad faith. The whole
Whatever that
concept
means.
of I'm trying to dominate my opponent is not necessarily the way to debate. If you're trying to reach a common ground and create a mutual consensus, that is a bad faith debate.
I
You pay
literally
people-
just
you try-
Dude doesn't know how to shut his mouth. Jesus. She's absolutely right about her description of Andrew Wilson.
allowed my
250
entire worldview to be up for internal critique. I didn't even push back once, and you still came to my conclusion without me pushing back at all.
I'm not
That
at
is
your
the
conclusion.
epitome of good faith.
We haven't gotten to your conclusion, Andrew.
We did. You
We
agreed
didn't.
that men have no obligation to enforce male privilege after saying you descriptively agree with force doctrine.
But men also
That's
have
it. Done.
Yo, this guy is a fucking. I don't like Andrew. I do not like Andrew Wilson. He plays stupid games and acts like a child, and then he tries to use stupid debate strategies in the midst of a conversation to ensure he wins the debate, so he looks like he's more intelligent than he actually is. This is so ridiculous. It's very obvious on what Andrew Wilson wants. He wants a society where the people he deems worthy to vote. That's what he wants.
Okay, but men also have no obligation to enforce their own rights.
Great.
So, like, how do you create a society in which all rights and all privileges are based specifically on force? To me, that sounds like
You'd
anarchy.
already descriptively agreed and conceded that point, but I'd like to move into feminism
No,
whenever
we
you're
did
ready.
not concede that point.
I mean, you did, but we have other topics to move into, specifically your feminist view. And since I stayed up to internal critique, it is now your turn.
All right, I feel like I understand what force doctrine is. The idea of force doctrine is being able to enforce certain type of ways of life or certain type of regulations and having some type of power to make some people do things. Now, the thing is, the United States of America, there is a level of force that innates people to do things, but for the most part, it's based on trust and faith of the institutions. The institution is not something that is built off force. That's why there's a lot of uncomfortable situations regarding the current administration, because the executive branch, there's really no way to force the executive branch to adhere to certain principles that the United States is built on. So right now we're kind of in a weird situation. So, I mean, everything kind of clicked on what exactly force doctrine is. I just did not realize what it was because I don't really hear that term often. So I don't get the point of all these. Oh, I win.
Turn for your view.
Really correct. Morality on like basic concepts of ethics, Kantian morality, Rousseau's philosophy of ethics. I think that
So Kantian ethics, you're a universalist ethicist, you're a deontologist?
no, I wouldn't say. Honestly, I feel like neither consequentialism nor deontological ethics like fully encapsulate.
So you're a threshold deontologist?
I don't know. I think there's merit to both arguments.
Okay, so what do you
But
base
if
your
we would like
morality on?
to- I think I base my morality on physically how you are impacting other people. If you are
That would
hurting
be
others,
consequences.
Sure, but
Oh my God, he's always trying to put a label on everything. Just let her fucking explain it. Stop being a fucking asshole. Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ, man. This man is way too confident on how he's acting, man. I'll be honest. He's he thinks he's like the smartest man in the world or some shit.
intent
Jesus
does play an
Christ.
important
That would be
consequences.
consequences as well. So if I have the intent to do good
Not everything is in relation to consequences in terms of determining a moral foundation and moral structure. Okay, bro.
things and bad things happen to you, you'd say I shouldn't be doing those good things to you, right?
No, that's why I'm saying I think that there's a gray area between consequentialism and deontological.
So threshold deontology. So,
Sure.
Okay.
Oh my God, Andrew, shut the fuck up. Jesus Christ. He's trying so hard to he is the perfect definition of mansplaining. Like if a term like mansplaining had a picture, it would have Andrew Wilson's face on it. Dude is really just trying to tell her how she thinks the entire time. He just won't shut up.
Okay, great.
Jesus
So you're a
Christ.
threshold deontologist. Can you tell me what you base that on other than your own personal perspective?
Do you not believe that it's immoral?
It's
to
not
hurt
my
other
turn to
people?
answer questions. Your turn for the internal critique.
I swear to God, man. Andrew Wilson. Oh, man. If we were in the same room and you were talking to me like you're talking to her, we're going to have issues. We're going to have issues. I'm going to be dead ass. We're going to have issues. Because I don't know how you don't know how to talk to fucking people. Is that just a foreign idea? All right, bro. I can't stand watching this debate because Andrew Wilson's a fucking asshole. So let's continue.
You're trying to question begging. You're trying to catch
what
your
does
opponent.
it mean? It doesn't mean you're trying to catch your opponent. That's not what question begging
not-
means.
Will you let me finish?
Yeah.
Okay.
What's it mean?
You're trying to catch your opponent in a logical fallacy by asking them questions that inherently.
My definition of
let's
bad.
move to the pickle jar.
Well, because
what
I
your
think
definition of
throughout
bad
this
is.
entire debate, you have been advocating against the free will and the bodily autonomy
No,
of a
I went my
significant
whole
group of people.
my whole
you wanted
view
hold on, pause. You
for-
want to disenfranchise voters.
my whole view
you
was
want to
already
disenfranchise
up
women,
for internal
you want to
critique,
disenfranchise.
and I gave you the entire internal critique of my argument of force doctrine for an hour and a half, and now it's my turn for the
It
internal
was not
critique.
an internal critique of the argument of force doctrine for an hour and a half. Let's calm down.
What do you know? What time it is?
Yeah, it's about to be 5:45 around.
Yeah. Feminism itself, if I can demonstrate to you that the outcomes of feminism have been bad, will you concede that it's bad? If I could.
If you can demonstrate that the outcome of feminism is bad,
Mm-hmm.
how would you, under the force doctrine, then that would be saying that to
Has
remove-
nothing to do with my view.
No, let's
You're
pause
now
that.
under internal critique.
I'm saying that under the force doctrine, the
I can't watch this debate anymore, bro. Let me just see the pickle jar moment. That's what I want to see, because this debate is stupid and Andrew Wilson is an asshole.
We weren't able to find. Sorry, we couldn't find the pickle jar. Go ahead, put
oh,
it
that's
on the
not
corner
fair.
there.
He paid $1,000 for a pickle jar. You should get a pickle jar.
You know, actually, I'll see what I can do.
Okay.
Can you?
Do you have a source on?
You got to open it.
Oh, I have to open it right now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
It's easier because it's an olive jar, though. Wait, put it.
My nail is fucking me up.
Yes, I do have a source for that. If you would like it, it's from the NIS. Anybody can find it. I just cited all of the statistics on it yesterday. Uh-oh. Come on, you can do
put
it.
Put it right side up.
You can do it. You got this.
All right, bro. I can't do it. Here.
All right. Oh my god. I guess yeah, Andrew, go ahead.
I'm supposed to open the pickle jar?
It's like a, yeah.
Oh, jeez.
I do. This seems a little immature. No. For
Hey, the guy
$1,000.
sent $1,000.
Yeah, but it seems slightly immature.
It's all fucking
It's just
slick
for,
now.
it's a little.
See, it
little fun.
is.
I got to grip it.
Uh-oh, Andrew. If you can't open it either,
Oh, no.
Well, your hand greased the whole top of it.
my hand are fine. Here, high five.
It
My
literally-
shoes are fine.
It's look, feel it. Isn't that greasy?
It was like that already. Oh my
Yeah,
god. you're
no, it
ridiculous.
wasn't. You greased the top.
Use
Oh
your
my
shirt. Use
Jesus,
your
Andrew!
shirt,
If you can't open the olive jar,
Yo, Andrew Wilson.
if you're so strong, you should open it.
Yeah, I got to be able to grip it.
Okay, we'll grip it. Let's
It's
go.
literally slippery.
Uh-oh.
Grab me a paper towel.
Yo, Andrew Wilson, bro.
You now need to allow her another opportunity with the.
Yeah, give her the
towel.
paper towel so
Give her
that
the
No,
paper
I think
towel.
you should do it, Andrew. You're the big strong
Yeah,
man.
the big strong man.
I'm
man.
greased.
Come on, Mr. Wilson.
Red Fox, thank you.
Deontology prioritizes intent, but threshold exceptions introduce consequentialist reasoning.
I'll let
Hang
you
on.
go first if you want.
No, Andrew, I greased it all up. There you
Rules are
go.
absolute. Introducing a threshold is ad hoc.
Red Fox, thank you for that. Appreciate it.
I can't grip the fucker.
Uh-oh.
Like I gotta
Yo,
have.
Andrew Wilson's a little
Andrew, I'm sorry. This is not-
My fingers slip
What a
right off the
backfire.
lid.
What
My
a
fingers
backfire.
lid. I just can't grip it.
You know what? Maybe the olive jars are harder than the pickle jars.
They're not hard to open, but I can't grip.
Oh,
the fucking
me?
thing.
Watch this shit.
So you can't blame me for my greasy fingers now. Like, go on.
It's still greasy. The top of it's like.
You tried it with like 4
Feel it
million
yourself.
olives.
Tell me
Should
I'm
I-
wrong.
You know what? Should,
Is that not greasy and
It is actually a
sticky?
little greasy.
Yeah, it's pretty fucking greasy.
I'm gonna let.
But it's the top, not the
Lulu
sides.
donated $200.
Lulu, thank you for this.
Katara, you got good morals,
Who's
but you're not
Katara?
engaging with Andrew on the level in which he's challenging you.
Oh, he's calling me.
Here, because he's asking stupid ass questions that have no inherent value to the overarching conversation. You guys are not fucking smart. You guys, just because you guys read some big words.
Thinking
You know what?
too
Let me
much
Yeah, this is
about
not
the
openable.
ideas you believe in.
Fucking Fort
Read a
Knox.
philosophy book.
Here, go.
Just can't rip them.
Okay, now I want it to be.
I got
open. It's
this,
like pissing me
boys.
off.
Me off.
Yeah,
Should we-
I know.
should
it's
we have
fine,
Jake
it's
try?
You'll
fine.
see the same thing. It's
Come
just
Yo,
on.
Andrew, get in the gym, boy.
it's
My-
You have a
fucking
little
greasy.
gut right here.
Just
How about
slides
you get in
off
the
there,
gym?
yeah.
How about Mr. Andrew Wilson gets in the gym? Mr. I abide by force doctrine, and only certain people are allowed to vote. I mean, I think certain people who are in shape and can open a pickle jar should be allowed to vote. How about that? How about that? I think only men who can protect their family and their wives with their own physical strength should be allowed to vote. I'm Andrew Wilson. I feel like that makes a lot of sense. You know what? I think Andrew Wilson has a point. You only should be allowed to vote is if you can bench 225. Those are those are the strong men, right? Those are the men that really deserve to vote. So Andrew, you don't qualify, obviously. That's what it seems like to me, right? You don't qualify. You can't open a pickle jar. So yeah, too bad, man.
Okay.
It's just too fucking greasy.
Yeah, you know what?
You'll get the same thing. Come in here, Jake. You think? Come on, you'll see for yourself. You can't get your fucking hand on it. Try it. No, you fucker. That was bullshit. Bullshit.
You see, he actually got some guns on him. He got some guns on him. That's why. He got some guns. Some guns. You don't got that frail little arms like you who be staying in your room and reading the book all day. Let me look out what a blah 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 fallacy. Let me look up how to engage in a debate to insinuate what a prescriptive term is, so I can trap my opponent later on in the debate. That's what Andrew Wilson is. A little nerd. How about that? Yeah, I can be a little dickhead. I can do it too.
All right. I just want to say for record.
We got a little.
I guarantee if I was in that room, I'm opening up that fucking pickle jar. I guarantee you. I don't go to the gym not to be able to open up a pickle jar. I'm locked in. We open pickle jars out here, bro. Come on.
Olive juice. Let's get off the table.
So
Get
does
off
he
the
have
table.
does he own your free will now? Because he could open it and you couldn't, based on
Ah, she got him. And that is all I need for my clip. Yeah, we're gonna farm the shit out of this because Andrew Wilson's a little asshole. All right, we're moving on from this. This debate sucks. Shout out her though. I like her. I don't like Andrew Wilson. He was being an asshole the entire debate.